Okay. Greetings, everyone. I'm Dragon Mama, and thank you for being on my YouTube channel or wherever you're watching this video. And thank you, members of Raw Healing, for supporting the recording of this video. The purpose of this recording is because of the fact that I haven't really been doing a lot of work in the American health, wellness, and spiritual community for the last decade. And in the last year, in the last several months, I've relaunched my wellness and my spiritual kind of presence. You can call it business if you want to. It's kind of weird calling it a business, but I've relaunched kind of back here in America. And even though I recorded a version of my life story, it's been 6 or 7 years since I've updated. And my life has been this crazy roller coaster of synchronicities, of miracles, of things that are meant to happen, of signs and signals and spiritual idiosyncrasies, all of the above. My life has been absolutely crazy. So I wanted to take the opportunity to get something recorded. And I'm going to ask everyone who's here to make sure you mute yourself so we don't have anything recorded to the recording. So I wanted to take this opportunity to just kind of share in the most raw and honest and open way possible everything that I've kind of endured and overcome and been through and persevered through, because it's a crazy story and it's inspirational. I think you guys are going to love it. So I actually prepared a PowerPoint presentation with some pictures that I can talk over. But before I turn that on, I just want to talk a little bit about my childhood. And just so everyone knows what kind of family I was raised in, sitting here right now, I consider myself non-religious. I don't practice any religion. I believe in nature, and I believe in nature as God, and I believe in God and the universe and all of that. But I don't follow or subscribe to any one religion. But I was raised in a Jewish family, and I was raised by good parents who are good people, and in a nice upbringing where there wasn't like any domestic violence or abuse. And I was raised like with parents who had enough money to let me do nice things and good things. I went to private school as a young girl until 12th grade. I started in 6th grade and I went to the best private school in Houston, Texas. And I went all the way until the 12th grade. My parents were like super supportive people. Like my dad's a consultant, my mom was an accountant, and my mom stayed at home to take care of me. And they did a really nice job raising me. Like I played basketball as a kid. I was into music. I played multiple instruments, involved in after school activities. I was like an all-state catcher in high school. So I was just kind of like your all-around person. In high school, I was never very popular. I got bullied a lot as a little kid. I never really had like close friends. I had a friend or two, but not a lot of, I wasn't a super social person, always a little bit of an outcast and a weirdo, never really fit in, while at the same time I did have a family that supported me and wanted the best for me. So all in all, I had a good childhood. And when I was 18, I decided that I would go to college at the University of Texas at Austin, where I was studying accounting. And my accounting career was really short. And I was really, really good in school. And UT had cum laude and was like the top of the business school. UT Business School is one of the top of the country. And I got my first internship in accounting like my sophomore year of my accounting program. And I went to work for one of the big eight or top accounting firms, which is like Ernst and Young. And by the middle of my first internship, like I not only like quit, I was like, I cannot do this. It was like a soul sucking thing. And so from a young age, there's a few things I knew. I knew that first of all, I wasn't meant to have kids and I didn't want to be a mom. And that there was something in my soul that told me I was meant for a bigger purpose. I've always felt that since a young age. And even though I got the education and I was like the top in the accounting degree, my soul really started to understand when I had that internship that it wasn't for me, and I was brave enough to say no. And so at that time, I had started training in athletics and I was doing Olympic weightlifting. And I spent like 10 years as a nationally competitive person. Like I was ranked in the top 5 in my weight class when I trained in Olympic weightlifting. And out of college, instead of going to work for an accounting firm, I started like a gym. I opened a business. I became a strength and conditioning coach. During that time, I also, not only was I training people and helping people get into shape and working with professional athletes, but the other thing that I was doing was really working with a lot of fat people. And I don't know if you guys remember that show, The Biggest Loser. I used to do local Biggest Loser competitions and take really fat people and help them lose weight. Back then, it was way different methods than I do now. Like now, I'm like a raw influencer and a raw enthusiast. Back then, it was like chicken and brown rice and exercise and cardio and stuff like that. Super like 90s old school, early 2000s type of stuff. But those were my days when I really started studying the psychology of like overweight people and fitness and wellness and all that. So I've had an interest in that in a professional level for most of my life. I'm 46 now. And I started my life in wellness and fitness when I was like 18. And with my jobs as personal trainers, like building clients and getting my own gym, having my own gym, developing my own gym, and then working that out from a strength and conditioning business. So that was so around the time of like 2005 and 2006, I started getting really heavy into my athletic weightlifting. So I want to share some pictures here. And here we go. Okay, so this is my PowerPoint presentation that I entitled Rags to Riches to Raw, because you'll see the part where I do get really poor in my life story. It's coming. But here's a picture of me. This is a 2007 Arnold Classic weightlifting competition. I won. I won my weight class. I was ranked nationally. I was like on top of my game. This was like my best lift. It's like from ground to overhead in a single movement. It's called snatch. You do it in one move. I was super into this stuff. So really into fitness, really into taking care of myself, really into working out. But what I can say about me during this time is I wasn't like spiritual or happy, or like I didn't have a sense of the universe or nature or groundedness or mindfulness or anything. If I would have known then what I knew now about mindfulness and meditation and and eating and nutrition and fasting, man, I would have been such a beast. But I was just kind of a meathead. I really was. I don't really think my higher self was activated or I had much soul. Like my life was like all about sports. I liked football. I liked sports and weightlifting and just all kinds of stuff like that that I don't even associate with anymore, which is super weird. And my weightlifting career didn't go on forever. It was like from 2000 until about 2010, 11. And then, things changed in my life. So I kind of switched gears a little bit, but I was still super into fitness and competing. So I started doing mixed martial arts fighting, and I was training with a lot of men. This is me in a jujitsu contest, one of my only matches that I ever did. And I'd like to show people this picture because it shows like from early in my 20s, like how physically fit I was. I really was physically fit and took care of myself. But if you look at my face, you can see there's like something missing. It's like the lights are on, but nobody's home, like soul's dead. Like, I read energy now. I'm an empath. So when I look at old pictures of myself, I'm like, wow, you're really dead inside. And when I look at this picture of myself, I was like, wow, that's someone who cares for their body, but their spirit is dead. Their soul is dead. I really hadn't found myself yet. So even though I was taking care of myself and making a living and doing my thing, at that point in my life, I was spiritually dead. Like I didn't meditate. I didn't feel energy. I didn't have any sense of the, collective consciousness or the universe or conspiracies or anything. And it's just, I'm a totally different person. And I want to share with you guys how I got to be from this person to where I am now. It's been a crazy ride. And it started at the end of 2012. So I'll go back to this for a moment. At the end of 2012, right before I was supposed to have my first ever professional fight, like I had been working with a coach and was really strong from all my years of weightlifting. So that made me a great wrestler. I was great on the ground and I threw a really hard punch. And to this day, I go to those punching machines and I hit really, really hard. But my shoulder, right arm from throwing so many haymakers had become so loose ligamented that finally like it disconnected everything. And my right arm had to be completely rebuilt at the end of 2012. And I had to cancel my fight. They called it a full labral reconstruction. So at the end of 2012, I was under the knife having my arm fixed. And that was pretty much the end of my athletic competing career. And when I came out of that surgery, afterwards, the doctor said things like, you can't even drive a car. You have to sit around because you have to let the pins sit in your arm, or you have to let it heal and the sutures heal. And there was a lot of fear given to me. Like if you move around, then you're going to have your surgery redone again. So at the end of 2012 is like one of the first times that I got fat. And this recurring theme of getting fat comes up in my life several times. And I also want to add that, like, during my years of training as a weightlifter and a fighter, I can honestly admit that I did use a lot of Adderall, a lot of stimulants. I took ecstasy pills. A lot of us did that in the 90s and early 2000s, mixed with Adderall. And, that's kind of when my substance abuse problem pretty much started to be the worst, was training and being in athletics and just using supplements and then crossing the line a little bit into things like Adderall, and also just doing occasional drinking, just dabbling in all of the poisons for all of the wrong reasons, which is, really a soul sucking thing that leaves a person looking dead inside, like my picture here. So fast forward to the end of 2012 to the beginning of 2013, I'm sitting there and I don't even have a picture of myself at this time. I looked and I couldn't find one, but I was like 180 pounds. And I was looking around like, how can I lose weight? Like I started Googling and somehow I got on this, and I had never heard, because I came from a rich family and like from a nice family. And even when I went to college, like I was around people who did cocaine and I was around Adderall and alcohol, but I had never heard of like crystal meth or anything like that. But I read on an internet forum that crystal meth made you lose weight, and I didn't know what it was, but I was like, I need to get me some of this crystal meth. And so when I started taking crystal meth in 2013, I used to measure out like amount for me to take. Like, oh, I'm just going to take this much and I'm not going to get addicted, because I had read all the stories. I'm like, oh, it's not going to happen to me. It'll never happen to me. Well, guess what? It definitely happened to me. So I want you guys to look at these pictures of 2013 to early 2014 and how unhealthy and skinny I got, particularly in this picture right here. This was pretty much the worst of it. You know, I can't even show my eyes because there were such dark circles under my eyes and I look so high and so fucked up. Excuse my language, but that's the right word. And so gaunt and skinny. And skinny is a good thing when it's done healthily, but it's a really bad thing when it's done this way. And during that time too, I've always been kind of a self-made person and a hustler. I started my own limousine company, and this is another little side story I want to share with you guys. I started my own limousine company in Austin, Texas, because I had lost one of the only jobs I ever had, which was being a teacher and a coach. And that's a whole nother story in itself. People like me are just not meant to work in public education because I do what I think it's right. And it turns out that it's not the right thing for the school and the rules and the policy type of thing. I'm a free thinker all the way through. So that job didn't last very long, even though I had a lot of success coaching basketball and volleyball and strength training. Whole nother side story in itself. But after I lost that job, I opened my own limousine company. And this is the way it started. I remember that I had $88 to my name. I didn't even have $100. And I was with my ex-husband at the time, and he wasn't helping. And he was kind of a selfish guy. And I was kind of screwed and on my own and trying to figure out how I was going to support myself. And I had $88 to my name. And what I had was one really nice Cadillac that I was paying off at the time. So here's what I decided to do. I'm like, okay, I got that. I'm going to fill the tank of gas up on the Cadillac, because I asked myself, what assets do I have in my life? What do I have going for me? How can I turn this $88 into something? So I filled the gas up in the car, and then I took like $20 and I made my own business cards. And this was before Uber was a thing. Okay. Before Uber even came into fruition. I'm telling you, you can look at the history of this. Uber came right after my business, limousine business, kind of went down. But I took the business cards and I went into a local hotel and I said, hey, I've got a really nice car. If somebody needs a ride to the airport, call me. And I went into the hotel and talked to the front desk guy. I said, I'll give you $5 for every time you call. And the guy's name was Ricky, I remember. And the hotel was the Hilton Garden Inn in the Arboretum in Austin. I remember it so well because it's just like this moment made in time. And like 2 hours later, my phone rings. It's like, hey, that's Ricky from the Hilton Garden Inn, the Arboretum. We have a customer who wants to go to the airport. Can you come? So I was right there. I gave Ricky his $5. He called back 3 more times that day. Before you know it, everyone from the Hilton Garden Inn needs a ride to the airport. Then I took those business cards to another hotel, and people started calling me and knowing me as Austin Blue Caddy. That was my handle back then for the limo company. And I was so busy driving my Cadillac that then I had to get another Cadillac and hire someone to drive it. And then I had to get another Cadillac. And it was like 3 or 4 of us running the business. And I had like a call center and everything. Now, just to be really, really honest, like this is kind of how I roll. Like I didn't have any commercial licenses or anything. And I was hooked up with people at the Austin airport. Like I was paying them off too, to allow me to use, I'm just, you know, it was a hustle. It totally was, but it was really good. And I provided a great service. And it was me making lemons from lemonade. But this coincided with the time that I started taking crystal meth. Okay. And so while I can't find the fat picture of me before I took crystal meth, by the time my limo business was popping, like I was using crystal meth to stay up at night and to like hide all of my like pains and sorrows and mask it, all that drug addict kind of stuff. And I got real skinny and I was constantly just doing more and more meth. I finally kind of broke through my own personal limits. My marriage to my ex-husband ended in November of 2013. I don't want to, because this video is going to be public, I don't want to say anything bad about him, even though he's a piece of shit. I'll just say that one time. But he knows what he did. I found out some very, very disparaging information about him, and I found the proof. And let's just say it was really, really ugly. And it was enough things for me to have found out to be like, okay, this is it. There's no coming back from this. And let me just say, it's more than just cheating one time with one person. It's like a chronic whole issue that I don't even really want to taint my video with. But that happened in November of 2013. And my crystal meth issue was going about at its peak around the beginning of 2014. And I'm going to see who is not muted. If you are not muted, try to mute yourself. There we go. Okay, I got you now. Oops. Where'd my share go? I'm going to reshare one more time, guys. So many stories, so much background. You guys are going to love where this is going. So it's 2014. You know, my limo business was popping, but then at the beginning in around March of 2014, I get pulled over by the cops, and it was funny because I had pain pills in the back of my car from my shoulder surgery that I didn't take because Vicodins made my whole body itch and I couldn't stand them. So I didn't take any of the pain pills, and there was no meth inside the car or anything like that. But the police found all my pain pills, and I had moved from leaving my ex-husband, and the whole mess was going on with that meth head type of stuff. And I got taken to jail, and I was in jail for 2 weeks for those pain pills until finally when I got out, I got all of that released because I was able to show that those were a prescription. But during those 2 weeks, my limo business basically fell apart because there were so many reservations and so many things happening. And the people that I had left in charge, because I was a disorganized meth head, like I couldn't count on them, and everything fell apart. So this beautiful franchise that I built, this limo business that was making the first year, it was made it over 6 figures. It was really successful, and that's net, really, really good. You know, it fell apart. And here's what I have to say about crystal meth is it is a vortex of hell that when you start smoking that stuff and you open that vortex, oh my God, it will not stop until your whole life is destroyed. It messes with your head. It makes you think you don't need to sleep. It gives you delusions of grandiosity. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible drug that I got wrapped up in just because I wanted to be skinny, which is just a horrible, stupid mistake, because now I know that it's all about being well, not about being skinny. And we don't do that with drugs. We do that with raw foods. But anyway, so in March of 2014, I got to the point where I had nothing and I had nowhere to go. I got kicked out of the place I was living because that girl found out that I was doing drugs. And I had people who were working for me ended up stealing. Two of my cars got stolen, and the other one, the engine got messed up. My Cadillac got repossessed, and then I ended up homeless. So don't smoke meth, boys and girls. It's a very bad drug. Makes you make very bad decisions. So these pictures are not from 2014, but these pictures are 2 side-by-side pictures of the dumpster that I slept next to when I was homeless. So when I lost everything in around March of 2014, I didn't know where to go. So I went and I slept next to it behind this dumpster that you see pictured. And I was still on crystal meth, and an amazing experience happened. Amazing experience happened. So I had come across a bag of crystal meth, and I was sitting next to the dumpster with this bag. And at this point, nobody would help me. My own parents wouldn't take my calls. Everybody knew I was on drugs. I was super fucked up. And I had this epiphany next to the dumpster, and I looked at the bag of crystal meth and I was like, this shit ruined my life. And I looked at it, I'm like, you are where you are right now because you got hooked on this shit. And it was a complete epiphany that most people who are on drugs can't have until it's too late. And then when I looked at that bag of drugs, I realized how powerful I was to have created this fate for myself. And then in that moment, I realized that I have so much hope in my life, because if I was so powerful to create homelessness, I'm also so incredibly powerful to get out of it. And so I decided to take my power back in that moment. So I took my very last bag of crystal meth and I buried it deep inside that dumpster, and I dumped it out, and I made sure I couldn't get back in there, because I knew that if I was going to get out of the situation, I was going to have to agree to go to rehab and all this stuff through my family. And I wanted to be able to hold on to one thing, which is that I quit the drugs by myself, because a lot of people are like, let me hit it one more time. Or like, you know, this is my last bag, or this is my last drink, or this is my last this. My taking my power back was all about me getting rid of that last bag of drugs all on my own. So I took the bag of drugs, I emptied it, I put it in the bottom of the dumpster, And I told my parents that they could call the rehab place and that I would be willing to check myself in. So in around March or early April of 2014, I started my journey of recovery. And I was, to be honest, I was in a couple different facilities. And when I went into the 12-step facility, 12-step facility, the first thing I saw on the wall was step one. We admit that we are powerless over our addiction. And when I went in there, I felt so offended and so traumatized and so upset because I had this huge epiphany at the dumpster. I was like, you are so powerful. You can do this. And then the first thing they tell you in the 12-step program was you are powerless. And to this day, I can't stand 12-step programs. And I knew that this was a part of my journey when I looked at that sign on the wall, and that I was here not only to heal myself, but also to find another way to help people heal away from the 12-step program. Because I've always been a student of people. I study people, I observe people, I pay a lot of attention. And one of the things I saw when I was in the facility for, like, I don't know, 40 or 50 days, however long they took was there, is that people would check out. Like, they would graduate from the 12-step program and then they would be back like a week or two later. And then the rationale that the people use there, they'd say, oh, I'm powerless over my addiction. My addiction got me. That's why. And they use that as an excuse to keep relapsing and drinking again or using again. And then, oh, I'm powerless over my addiction. Then I have to, like, hand over my addiction to this higher power. And while I totally agree and subscribe to the idea of God and the universe, nature, whatever we want to call it, as the higher power that we all have within us, I've always refused to, like, take a knee and to say, like, something outside of me has to fix me. And in the program, people say that's white knuckling your recovery, but it's not white knuckling if you really are dedicated to being happy and wanting to be clean and wanting to let go and wanting to not want the drugs. And that's what my philosophy has been from the beginning, is when I quit the crystal meth, I stopped wanting the drugs. Like, people give it up like they're giving something up, and that's why they have to say they're powerless, because they're always going to be thinking about it. But for me, it was like, I want to give this up. I want to be rid of it. And from the time that I threw that meth in the garbage in the dumpster, I've never thought about it again from that day. And I have over 10 years clean of crystal meth to this day. So once I threw it away and I was done with it, I never touched it again and I never went back. And when I was in the rehab facility, I knew that it was my fate. I knew it was my destiny to work with addicts, to work with addiction, and to work just as a healer in general, and to find a newer age, newer way, more efficient, more self-empowering, more self-supporting, more self-loving way for people to heal besides the 12-step program. And that 12-step program has been something I haven't liked from the beginning. So a little side note there. Moving on. So in 2015, I was pretty much done with my recovery and back on my own. And I got a car and I started driving Uber because driving was really familiar to me. So while I was driving Uber in 2015, like, I was going through my spiritual awakening very intensely. And I started to be able to feel energy. I started to be able to, like, see spirits on people. I have, like, a weird gift of being able to close my eyes and seeing people's organs through their skin. And people who are listening to this are going to be like, wow, that's super weird. But my spiritual gifts awakened while I was on crystal meth. I don't recommend this as the best way to have an awakening, but when you take drugs, you awaken, you see the shadow people, you see all these dark things. And then when you stop taking the drugs, your awakening starts to be more beautiful and more self-loving. So in 2015, I'm like, wow, I can do energy work. I can do it on myself. I can do it on other people. And I knew this was my fate. So I didn't know how to get into the spiritual realm or as a professional, but I knew I was supposed to. So I went on Facebook and I started doing free energy work sessions for people, like 30, 40-minute sessions for free. And then after I was done with the session, I'd say, hey, if you want, give me a testimonial if you liked it. And I used all the testimonials I did from energy work and also from counseling, just listening to people, helping them go deep within their psychology. And this is when I really started counseling people deeper. I had always worked with fat people and did, like, the psychology of fat people, but this is when I started counseling people with their emotional stuff and their addiction. And I was doing it for free. And in 2015, I completed over 500 hours of free work, like counseling people and doing energy work. And I collected a lot of testimonials. And every time I would work with someone and get a testimonial, I would put that testimonial on Facebook and I'd say a little bit about the client experience and a little bit like I still do to this day. So eventually what happened was a company in Japan called Voice, and they're a spiritual company and they hire spiritual teachers. I got an email from them one day, and I guess I had a website, so they found my email and they called me Tracy-san, you know, from Japan. Tracy-san, we see your work on Facebook. We think you make good teacher. We want you to come to Japan. I was like, whoa, I knew this was the thing I was looking for. And guys, you don't understand, like in 2013, I'm on crystal meth. In 2014, I'm next to a dumpster. Okay. In 2015, I'm like in recovery. And then I'm getting out in 2015 and I'm doing free energy work, like at a no level, not even getting paid at all. And then bam, beginning the very end of 2015, I get the email from Japan. We want you to be a teacher. I was like, I knew that was it. I knew this is why my spirit was telling me, okay, do all this free work and put it out there. I got recruited. So it was such a out of nowhere thing to my family. My whole family thought it was a scam. Like my mom was like, you need to call and check them out because who's going to hire you to do this? Like nobody in my family was like, oh, Tracy just got out of drug rehab. Like, why is anyone going to hire her or want her to go do this? But I knew it was true because my spirit knew like the path that I was walking. And so I made my parents feel better and I validated it. I actually found other teachers who were hired to work with them and talk to them. And I asked them, hey, do they actually pay you and everything? And it was all legit. So in 2016, I made my first trip to Japan and a bunch of awesome things happened during that trip. This picture right here shows, this is the first time I ever shared my story. And I was sitting at the front of the classroom. I always stand up when I present, but this is like the only workshop really where I ever sat down because I was shy and learning. But it was, my presence in Japan was covered like in a lot of spiritual media. An article was written about me in this magazine called IHM World. And I don't know if you guys have heard of like Dr. Emoto. It's his magazine. So Dr. Emoto's magazine featured me and my work when it came out in Japan for the first time. And my first workshop in Japan was extremely successful. A lot of people attended it. The results were good. So many interesting things happened. I was greeted and met by a member of the imperial family of Japan who took me to one of those sensory deprivation tanks, and I have pictures of this too. My life story goes deep on so many levels. And the sensory deprivation tank that she allowed me to go into, it cost like $2,000 for 30 minutes because the water in there is like the salt water from the Dead Sea. So I was like invited into some super elite spiritual circles from a really young in my spiritual career, which is really rare. And at the end of my first workshop in Japan, this lady came up to me, well, with the interpreter, and she said, oh, this lady, she flew all the way from China just to meet you. Do you have time to talk to her? I was like, of course. What's going on? So it turns out that this lady who was in my very first workshop that I ever taught, she came all the way from Beijing. And she said this. She said, Tracy-san, and because she's Chinese, but she also gets into the Japanese culture. Tracy-san, because we're in Japan. I had to come all the way from China to Japan to take your workshop because I had a dream that said that you are a gift and a healer from God, and that I was supposed to come into this workshop and bring you back to the people of China to work there. And I was like completely blown away. She's like, would you consider doing a workshop in China in a few months in the summer? It was in the summer because this first workshop I did was in February and she invited me back for June. I said, of course I'll come. And it was just a really crazy thing that happened. Like I just did my first international presentation class in Japan. And then immediately this lady is like telling me that she wants to bring me to the people of China. Now I want to rewind 3 days earlier than that. 3 days earlier, before that lady from China had asked me to come to China, one of the most famous psychic in Japan had heard about my presence in Japan, and then she says to me, she contacted the founders of the workshop to ask if I would be willing to meet with her. And so of course I'll meet with this famous psychic. Like all these famous people want to meet me. It was really weird for some reason, and I was just getting started. So this famous psychic and I are in this tea shop and she's sitting down and I'm like, well, what are you trying to tell me? And she says, I just wanted to let you know that one day you're going to be famous in China. And when she told me that, it came absolutely out of nowhere. Absolutely out of nowhere. Like I had no association with China. This was my first workshop ever. Like barely anybody knew who I was. And like this psychic lady wanted to meet with me just to tell me that I was going to be famous in China. And then 3 days later, that lady comes up to me and says, hey, we want to bring you to China. The two completely don't know about each other because I actually had asked the lady from China, I'm like, hey, do you know about this psychic? Because she had said something, because that's the normal thing to do. Hey, someone just brought this up, and she had no idea who she was. So strange coincidence, spirit guiding me, whatever it was. And this picture right here, this is me giving my first ever presentation in China. This is in Shanghai in June of 2016, which was about 3.5 months after my first presentation that I gave in Japan. And what am I teaching in Japan? Just the things that I have learned so far about energy work, about healing. I've studied a lot about healing and the energy of cancer and the energy of letting go of your sickness and the emotional ties to healing and all of this. And I had developed a curriculum in 2016 that is evolved into a whole thing now that's something way different than what it started, but even better. Here we are almost 8 or 9 years later. So let's move forward slowly from in 2016 also, before we get into my teaching career, that's also when I fell in love with Jared. And let me tell you, these soul bonds, they are so challenging. Like, we met and we were both like normal size together. And then we both got fat together. We started dating in 2016. By 2017, look how fat we got. There's us in 2017. And of course, here's us into 2020. And I'll go more into our health journey a little bit. But when you meet that person who's kind of like your twin, and I don't like to use the word twin flame because it has so many weird connotations to it, but when you meet someone who's like a soul partner kind of relationship, you sharpen each other, you challenge each other, you trigger each other. Oh my God, it is so hard because it's literally like living with your mirror. Like all of you're so similar and so alike, and you can see like in our pictures, like we always look alike. No matter what's going on, it's never that he's fat and I'm skinny. Like, we're fat together, we're fit together, we're this size together. Like, we look like this. Like, we just always look the same, and it's still like that to this day. And it's like living with your twin or living with your mirror, constantly having to be around like all of seeing your negative qualities in someone else and seeing them be annoyed by the same ones. It really forces both people to be better and better and better. And that's exactly what's happened with Jared and I over the last, we've been together 8 years now. So he's also a big part of my journey. And I'll mention a little bit more about him later, but that also started going on in 2016. And Jared also, he's a healer and a shaman and medicine man. And so all of this material that we created, I decided to bring him into the Chinese mix, even though it was me that got invited there. He had so much good knowledge, and we're such a good team, and we work so well together that we did the China thing together. So between 2017 and 2020, Jared and I made 13 trips to China, and we hosted over 150 international events, all the way from small events to larger events to medium-sized events. We were a whole thing in China. And in 2020, we had signed a contract to go on a world tour with our Chinese clientele. And we're going to go to like Bali and like Thailand and Egypt and, oh my God, in Singapore and all these different places. But you guys know what happened in 2020, right? COVID hit. So like the pinnacle of everything that we had built together and everything that we thought we were doing, and we were moving on to this next stage of like, wow, this is like, it was a Chinese tour, then it was it was going to become a world tour. Our dreams were kind of shattered by the inability to travel. And our before COVID, the last trip that we made to China was in Hainan, and that was in January of 2020. And it was really, really sad being separated from our colleagues, from this life of travel, from this life of spirituality and healing. And so in 2021, we took our business virtual to China, and it started to explode virtually. Our message, while people couldn't travel and they were stuck in their homes because of COVID, our classes, our message, our teachings got really famous in China. And between 2021 and 2023, our main course, Journey to Full Bloom, received over 10,000 testimonials in Chinese. So it blew up really, really big while we were sitting at home, kind of disappointed that we weren't traveling anymore. But again, making lemons out of lemonade. So these are all pictures from around 2017 to 2020. And before I go into some more, I want to share a little bit about the work that I do. And all of these pictures are Chinese before and after pictures. And what we teach and what we do for people is so much more than physical. So I always ask people, ask clients who work with us long-term, take a picture of your happiest face before you start. And then after they've had our programs, take a picture of your happiest face after the program. And if you look at some of these, like this one, like look how dead and miserable she looks. You can see the light being restored into people's eyes. Like this is another good one. Look, no light, the light is back in the eyes. Darkness, light. No light, light. For anyone who can read energy, you can clearly see the effect of the teachings and what we do. Even people who really struggle, like she could barely smile. And then look at her smile here. It's all about the subtleties. Look at this one here. And then, you know, at the on the right side, she's like dancing and so happy. And we have, you know, so many sets of photos like this. And the work that we've done in China has been so meaningful and so expansive and so effective. And when people ask me what it is, I'm like, it's personal alchemy. It's shadow work. It's mastering your own energy. It's learning to love yourself. It's aligning yourself with nature. It's all of these things. And we created over 300 to 400 hours worth of curriculum that went into all of this. And it's just a miraculous thing that happened. It's like 1 minute I'm on drugs, living next to the dumpster. The next minute I get invited to China, to Japan. Then I get invited to China immediately. Then the Chinese thing just blows up. And as it's blowing up, our teachings and my channel of these materials, like I'm creating more and more content and it's getting deeper and deeper and I'm healing myself more and I'm learning more and more about myself. While meanwhile, like all these people are changing and healing. But there's some fallout from this. And the fallout, or what I call the consequences, is that between 2017 to 2019, I got fat. So spiritually, I was like growing on the inside and I felt like I was getting really happy. And it's like when you fall in love, you know, you get happy and you eat and you do all these things together. We both got fat together. We did. We both got fat together. And yeah, I think these three pictures are the worst. I think this one, like I didn't even take any naked pictures of myself when I was this fat. This was what after I started losing a little bit of weight, so it's not as bad. And this is, you know, I was starting to feel fly, like I lost a little weight, but I still look like a big girl in that picture too. But we were traveling around the world. We were eating rice. You know, we spent a lot of time in airports and traveling and different places. And when you travel, you just eat what's there. And you know, part of my getting fat too had to do with I spent so many years having to make weight as an Olympic lifter. I had to be this weight or that weight. And I was skinny when I was on meth. And so part of me just wanted to revolt against like having to be healthy, having to go to the gym, having to care for myself. And I got to the point where I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to eat what I want and I'm just going to be happy. And that's what happened to my body. And everything changed in December of 2018 for me in this body. So in December of 2018, I was in this body and we were in Shanghai. And the Shanghai airport, okay, it's one of these airports where the distance between gates is really, really, really long. I had just been standing on my feet for 10 days straight, teaching, okay, teaching, doing what we do in China. And I don't know if you guys know what it feels like to stand on your feet when you're really fat, but your ankles get swollen, you get tired, your back hurts. I had all of that. And plus I was carrying, like, people always give us so many gifts. So I had all these gifts. I was carrying so much stuff. I could not walk through the Shanghai airport. My feet were so swollen and I felt like so much shit that they had to get me a cart to get me. I literally couldn't walk because my feet were so swollen that I didn't have the ability to walk. And they had to get a cart to move me from one gate to the other. When I was sitting in that cart, I felt like, oh my God, seriously, oh my God, I'm such a hypocrite. I'm a bad person. I'm teaching people about spirituality and self-love, and I don't love myself because I'm in terrible health. Like, I felt like such a hypocrite. I felt like such a piece of shit. I felt like a fraud. I felt like my career was a waste. I was really down on myself and hard on myself. And also, like, we were flying home through Vegas and we landed in Vegas, and the Vegas trip with Jared on the way home from that year from China, it was supposed to be fun, but my fat ass couldn't walk around Vegas because my legs were so swollen. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't see anything. I had already seen Vegas so many times, but Jared had never been and I wanted him to see it. And because my legs were so swollen, like, we couldn't go anywhere. It's just so stupid. And so I made the intention, and this was at the end of 2018, that I was going to get into shape. I was going to get back into shape. I knew I had a long road. I had all kinds of health issues: type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, horrible, painful periods, endometriosis, PCOS. It was a mess. I was a mess. But even worse than being a mess, my health was bad and I felt like a hypocrite. So on January 21st, 2019, I did my first ever 5-day fast. And it was life changing. And after that 5-day fast, I decided to give up sugar. And that was my big thing that I quit first was sugar. And I gave up sugar and I decided to go on a ketogenic diet. And I'm not going to lie, I lost a lot of weight on the ketogenic diet, a lot of it, a lot of weight. So, and these pictures are from 2021 to 2022. So I lost a lot of weight on keto and I was doing fasting and intermediate fasting. A lot of things were still wrong with me when I lost the weight because we had made a lot of money in the COVID years, a lot of money, like a lot more money than we make now. And I'm fine with that. And the money, the big money I know will come back because when you shift vibration, you also shift the people who are willing to listen to your message. And I'm aiming for a different class of people now for my message. And that's what it means to me to have integrity and character is to not be afraid to let go of certain things, you know, in honor of doing what's right. But I lost a lot of weight on keto and fasting. So by 2021, like I was looking like a normal size, but you know, you can see my muscles coming back again. I started like feeling really sexy in my body. So like I kind of like went in this shallow direction of wanting to have a lot of like fancy dresses and constantly coloring my hair and wanting a lot of sparkly things and sparkly makeup. I dragged Jared through all these experiences too, like renting like a Rolls Royce and just taking these stupid pictures. I mean, they're great memories and everything, but you know, it's materialism and greed at its finest. I also developed a champagne habit, especially during the COVID years. It's like there was not a lot to do, so I started drinking a lot, and I was drinking champagne. Like I was drinking at least like a bottle of champagne every day. Never went back to the meth, but a little alcoholism issue popped up, especially during COVID. So that happened. So I was able to keep the weight off from keto and fasting, and I was exercising really, really hard, but my health was declining. My endometriosis, my PCOS, my insulin resistance, blood sugar, all of these things were still troubles. But I kept drinking. I kept taking the drinking. And then eventually, you know, the plant medicine started to kick in. So I actually started using medicinal mushrooms in 2018. And during the years of like 2018, the first couple of years, you know, I would eat mushrooms and drink alcohol at the same time. So like the message didn't always come through so well. But it was scary for me to take mushrooms because like for me, I would think, oh, crystal meth drugs, mushroom drugs. And it was Jared actually who convinced me that these mushrooms were going to help heal me and make me a better person. And they really, really did. So I started dosing and taking a lot of big doses. I took so many 5-gram doses and so many 4-gram doses and 3-gram doses and 2-gram doses and 1-gram doses. We went through pounds of mushrooms, pounds of them. And finally, in 2022, something was telling me, the sip here, something was telling me, my spirit was calling me again, the same way my spirit tells me to do things all the time that lead to these weird things happening. My spirit told me that I needed to take a really big dose of mushrooms. So, because something was missing, I was still drinking a lot. It's like I knew that the drinking was contributing to my health problem and it was giving me problems in my life and everything, but I didn't want to admit it and I didn't want to quit. And I don't know, I guess dosing myself with 17 grams of mushrooms was my spirit's way of setting myself free. I, I'm going to be really honest. Part of me did this 17 grams because I thought it was cool and it was a little egotistical. Like, oh, look how many mushrooms I can take. Oh my God. I don't recommend anyone doing this if you can avoid it. It's 17 grams of mushrooms is a lot. And here's the picture of what I weighed out. I've had some people tell me, oh, that's not a strong mushroom because the stronger ones are the smaller ones. No, that's a 17-gram penis envy mushroom. Trust me when I say it kicked my ass. Just to say the least, there was throwing of things, ripped my own clothes off. And, you know, I went to the refrigerator and there was like something in my head telling me, never drink again, never drink again, never drink again. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die. You have to quit alcohol. And like all these messages came through is never touch alcohol again, never touch caffeine again, stop eating meat. Like it told me all of these things. And basically it was from this 17-gram mushroom trip on August 12th, 2022, that I started to become the person that I am today. And after the 17 grams of mushrooms, I was microdosing for about the next like 8 to 10 months. But somewhere in around 2023, the mushroom told me that I was done with it. There's nothing more I can get from mushrooms. I can't grow. I've grown all I can. And then it was time for me to move on. So I've graduated from the School of Mushrooms, but I consider myself greatly blessed by them, greatly healed by them, and greatly aided and helped by them. I would not be the person I am today without the help of psychedelic mushrooms. And it was after this huge dose of psychedelic mushrooms that I also started to really cut down on chicken and cut down on beef. Definitely, I quit alcohol. Since this day of August 12th, 2022, I have not had one sip of alcohol, not one sip. And there was some type of vibrational shift that happened on me in that day, some type of vibrational shift. And the vibrational shift was like, now that like if I look at it or smell it, alcohol, like I can't stand it. Like I see how wrong it is, how bad it is, how masking of your emotions it is. I see that even one drink is alcoholism. Like alcohol is so bad. I wish I never had one drink of alcohol in my whole life. I wish alcohol didn't exist. And this was a completely overnight turnaround for me that just happened, bam, so incredibly fast. And then this day happened, which was August 22nd, 2022. Okay. So let me tell you the story of the sign. And this is a huge part leading up to my raw journey. And this is a screenshot taken from my iPhone. So you can see I took this picture on August 22nd, 2022. My period, so I wasn't fat, but I was still, I had been drinking. I had just quit drinking from the mushroom trip. But my period was like 2 or 3 weeks late, and I was in horrible health, even though I looked good. I had muscles, I had stomach and everything. I was in horrible health, horrible. I knew something was wrong. I could feel it in my soul. Something was wrong. I was sick. Something was 1,000% wrong. Don't ask me how I know. Sometimes I'm one of these energy people. I can feel my body. My whole body was saying, you're sick, you're sick, you're sick. Something was wrong. So I made an appointment with a gynecologist. And just so you guys know, I don't do doctors. I hate doctors. I hate the medical system, but I was scared and I knew something was wrong. I took like 3 pregnancy tests. I wasn't pregnant. My period was never that late. I had this weird bloating in my stomach. I was sweating at night. Like I was starting to have a weird pooch in my gut, even though I looked good, but there was like a weird bloating there. So I made an appointment with a gynecologist. That appointment was August 22nd, 2022. When I went into the doctor's office, I went to check in, like you check in any doctor's office. And the lady said, I'm sorry, we don't have any record of your appointment. And I pull out my phone and I have a confirmation message from them and I show them, I'm like, well, you sent me a confirmation that this is my place and this is the time and the address and everything. And she's like, that's weird. So the record of my doctor appointment was somehow erased from their system. And I said, well, can you squeeze me in? I'm really like worried about my health. No, you have to make another appointment. When can I get in? 2 weeks from now. And an interesting thing happened in that moment. I look up at the ceiling of the doctor's office and I see this painting of Michelangelo from the Sistine Chapel. And this whole painting is in the shape of a human brain. And that's basically God touching man's finger in the shape of the brain. And the message of this, the known message and the known meaning behind this image is that your mind is God. And I saw this as a huge sign not to make the doctor's appointment for 2 weeks because I was like intent on going to the doctor. Trust me, you guys, something was wrong. I either had uterus cancer or ovarian cancer. I'm 100% sure I had something. Something was really incredibly wrong with me. My previous doctors had already told me that I was going to have my uterus removed because of my endometriosis. They said I had like a few years. And I ignored all of that advice. I ignored everything I was told, but this was something was totally wrong with me. Very wrong. I decided not to make the doctor's appointment and to listen to my spirit and to believe that I could heal myself of whatever was wrong with me, to believe I could heal myself. And so I took the sign. I told the lady that I don't want to make the doctor's appointment. And I went with Jared in the car. He was with me that day. I said, okay, well, that means I really have to heal myself holistically, which is when I started learning about raw foods in 2022. In 2023 to 2024 is when the real shift happened. My switch to eating raw shift, it happened slowly. In 2022, I cut out like chicken and beef and pork, bacon, until June 21st, 2023. All that was left in my diet that was not vegan was eggs and cheese. I moved to Oregon on June 21st, 2023. And on the day that the moving truck left, I said, okay, as of today, I am a raw vegan. And the only things I had left to eliminate were cheese and eggs. And so I quit cheese and eggs on June 21st, 2023. And I've never turned my back since then. I had one slip up with cheese, only one. But that was like 30 days later. And since then, I have not touched any cheese or any milk or any dairy. And my raw journey began with my first watermelon challenge on in July of 2023. And just to like show like some of the pictures here, like the transformation is just amazing. Like 2018, there's fat me. You can see I can kind of barely smile, no light in my eyes. Skin looks waxy. Same thing right here. Just dark circles, waxy skin, overweight. It's like the light. It's like I look like one of my own success stories from the before and after picture. The lights come back in. And I attribute all of this to raw foods. And from the time that I moved to Oregon in June of 2023, I have been strictly on raw foods, mainly mono feasting, eating one food at a time. And, even though I might not be at my mostest muscular that I've ever been in my whole life, my body is still very hard. I work very hard. I have a lot of hours. I take really good care of myself. But most importantly, my health issues are completely dissolved. I have no more endometriosis, no more PCOS, no more cysts, no more type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance. I don't sweat anymore at night. And guys, nothing hurts anymore. My periods, I'm going to be really, really honest, and this is controversial to some people. I've lost my period for the most part. Every once in a while, a little bit of spotting comes out, but I've learned that periods are detox. And the interesting thing is I still ovulate every single month. How do I know that? Because you guys, ladies, how you know when you're ovulating, that little pain comes and, something comes out a little bit, but I'm still ovulating. So I know I'm not going through menopause. All of my pain, all of my painful periods, all of my cramps, all of the bloating, all the hormonal issues, all of the issues that accompanied everything, all of my sickness completely gone, completely dissolved. And I'm existing now in pure and beautiful and serene health, which is like the most beautiful gift ever. In my raw life, raw living has been a level up for me. And that's what my YouTube channel is going to be all about, is talking about the level up and how raw living brings you into your God self. For me, the two biggest aspects of raw living have been watermelon and green juice. Both of those have been transformative for me. I've done 40 days on watermelon and 77 days on watermelon, and I did 40 days on green juice, and I'm doing my second green juice fast now. But I've also done multiple 20 days on green juice and multiple 3 days on green juice. These are my two biggest things, because green juice, you make it in the winter, and the watermelon, you make it in the summer. These things have helped me clean my gut, clean my mind, clean my spirit, restore light back to my eyes, love back to my soul. It's been truly, truly a journey. And there's been a butterfly effect of it too. So I want to talk a little bit about how this affected my life professionally. Now that I've been on this raw journey, like I told you guys, I am leveling up the types of people that I want to help and how I want to help people. 10,000 testimonies is a lot for my healing modality. But the truth of the matter is a lot of people, they come to heal and they write a testimony, but they don't stick with it, because the package that I was teaching before I was a raw vegan was never complete. It was never complete. And to this day, I can never respect a spiritual leader or a spiritual teacher, including myself, who's not a raw vegan. Even though I helped a lot of people when I was not a raw vegan, even though I made a lot of dents, now that I'm here, when I look back at the kind of teacher I was and the kind of channel I was and the kind of spiritualist I was as a non-raw vegan, it's night and day. And so I can't even respect the words of people anymore, spiritual teachings, who are not following the same path, because you don't understand what it truly means to heal yourself from the inside out and to love yourself until you become a raw vegan. It's for this reason that I'm no longer allowing any non-raw vegan foods at my events in China anymore, which changes the types of people who will be willing to come, because these people are into their rice, they're into their noodles and their meat. And, the world opened back up. So I've already been back to China 3 times this year, and I'm about to make my 4th trip back. And not only now am I doing smaller workshops, we used to let 50, 70, 100 people in. Now I'm limiting space to 20 people who want to come have a raw vegan retreat and learn the spiritual and emotional teachings while under the care of raw foods. I'm no longer having these events where we give people cake and coffee and people sit around meditating all day. And then at the end of the day, they eat meat and rice and noodles. My heart can't handle it anymore. The first time we went back to China in Beijing in February, I had already been a raw vegan for 6 to 8 months. And I would teach during the day, and at night, I would see everybody like eating their rice and eating their noodles and their bad foods. And I would go to my room every night and I would cry. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I can't do this. I know it's wrong. If I really want to help people, I have to help people the way that I know that they can heal fully and become full again, and become whole again, because the emotional and the spiritual and the physical, they're all connected. And what eating a raw vegan diet has done for me, and what it does for everybody, is it forces you to confront your emotional and your spiritual issues through not coddling and suppressing your emotions with bad food. And I found out that every single human, most humans and everyone who's not a raw vegan is an addict. And the only way to heal addiction all the way through is with a raw vegan diet. Sitting here today, I consider myself a healed addict. I'm no longer addicted to anything. I don't have addictive behaviors, addictive personalities before. And I've learned that there's a definition or a way to define addiction. And addiction is repeating the same self-harming behavior over and over and over again. And whether that's with coffee or alcohol or sugar or some certain food, if you do something that's bad for you and you do it repeatedly, that's addiction. And if we look at what most people eat and how they eat and what they put into their bodies, they're addicts. And just because they're addicted to legal things doesn't mean they're not still addicts. So you don't truly understand what it means to be a healed addict and to no longer be an addict until you become a raw vegan. And we're living in this society where most people are addicts and they don't realize that they're addicts. And so until you force people to confront their addiction by going a prolonged amount of time on raw foods, you're not going to really be able to get through to them. Or I don't feel like I can really get through to people the way I want to be able to get through to them unless they're on raw foods. I no longer want to do energy work on people who are not practicing a raw vegan diet. You want to like mess around with, things like Reiki, energy work, meditation, yet you want to eat dead things and put dead animals in your body. It's just all hypocrisy. And looking back on my own journey as a spiritual teacher, I see how hypocritical I was. I see how wrong I was. I see how twisted it was to teach about energy and spirituality in the universe while so deeply and truly like abusing my own vessel and not taking care of myself and loving myself properly. So I know that all of these things were part of like this fate and destiny that the universe has chosen for me and that I've chosen for myself on this timeline. It's mutually there that I've chosen this journey and the universe approved me for it because there's been so many synchronicities on my path. And in 2022, Jared and I decided that we wanted to move to Oregon. Here's our house in Oregon. We decided we wanted to move to Oregon because we wanted to be able to give people the ability to heal with us, specifically with me, because he's doing some work on himself now, and he's way more in the background and not really teaching as much and being as involved. He's here supporting me and working on himself and digging deep into the esoteric truths of the universe. He's a truth seeker and one of those people who really, really like wants to know the truth, like what is this place kind of thing. So he's taking some time to work on that. But we're both here living in this house, and we wanted to be able to have a place where people can come and legally experience plant medicines like RSO, which is Rick Simpson oil, which heals cancer, like psychedelic mushrooms, and mix that with the power of raw foods. And that's currently what's going on here. And now finally in this fall and this winter, our place is starting to fill up. We have several guests booked coming to heal with us. And it's just, everything is kind of like this match made in heaven, full of synchronicities and amazing life. I'm not going to lie. There have been a lot of challenges. We've been a lot of hardships. Jared and I have challenged each other a lot because we're so similar and we're so alike. And it's a miracle we're still standing, but we are still here standing and thriving and doing amazing. And my purpose moving forward is to enable and to facilitate the healing and the awakening and the empowerment of the mind, body, and spirit in unison. That means anyone that I want to work with as a client, people that I want to attract to me, and people I want to serve have to be willing to do the physical, which is the medicines and the raw healing, the exercise, the emotional, the alchemy work, the journey to full bloom, and the spiritual, which is just combining all two of those things together and really tapping into your higher self and digging into a sense of purpose. And that's the kind of healer who I am and who I've become. And my motto to myself is I'm an inspiration to myself and others. And I teach I teach others, and everything that I teach to other people, I've learned by doing it on myself. I'm a collector of information and an assimilator of information, but I'm also a self-experimenter. I experiment on myself, then I find people that want the help, same kind of help for themselves that I've given to myself. I prove that it works, and then I share it with others. And so using this kind of formula for my success, I've moved myself from being spiritually dead next to the dumpster, recruited to teach in Japan, then recruited from Japan to China, then blowing up in China in person, then having our world tour canceled because of COVID, then exploding virtually in China, raising enough funds and capital, being completely self-made to move all the way to Oregon, while at the same time healing my own issues with plant medicines and raw foods and healing myself physically, while at the same time opening up raw healing in my home healing retreat business to offer this to others. So that, my friends, is my path. I really wanted to try to work it into 1 hour. So I've gone into 62 minutes. I'm going to stop the screen share here and say this. I really appreciate all the people who attended live. I'm going to actually stop the recording in a minute and ask if you guys have any questions. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just answer the questions live, because maybe they'll be interesting and maybe somebody will want to hear it later. And maybe it'll be a good question and maybe it's something I left out. I don't know. But I really wanted to do this because I wanted the people of Raw Healing, which is my Facebook community, to be able to know a little bit more about who I am and where I came from and how I got to be who I am, and a lot of the synchronicities that have supported all of this, the creation of all this that we're creating together, and also just kind of put it on my YouTube channel so that people who find me and who don't know me on Facebook can be like, okay, well, what's up with this chick? So that's what's up with me. I'm 46 years old. I feel 25 inside. I consider myself a completely healed addict, a raw vegan for life, and I aim to inspire myself and others. And the journey is real. So if anyone has any questions, or if I left anything out, or you want to comment, I will open the floor to that now. If not, I can end my recording. But I want to say thank you guys for everyone who came to listen. It's super cool. Anybody? Going once? Are you scared you're going to ruin my recording by asking a weird question? Did I freak you guys out with my story?
I got a question.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hi.
how you doing, Dragon Mama? How's it going? Yeah, we just got home from camping, so sorry, I just wanted to pop on. So you said you went to private school. Did you ever go to college? Did you ever do anything like that, or you just?
Yeah, I talked about that earlier in the live feed.
Okay.
I went to private school, and then I got my undergraduate in accounting from the University of Texas at Austin, and also did my graduate degree there in sports management and marketing, and with a minor in sports fitness and physiology. So
Okay.
all the way
Yeah.
through, I'm educated, even
I don't
though
know.
even
That's
though I
good.
didn't end up using my education in a traditional way, because I ended up being self-made and an entrepreneur. But yeah, I got my education.
Good. I think everybody should do that. I mean, they got to follow their passion and not just go by the book with what school has to offer, I guess. So
Yeah, I
good for
agree.
you. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other question? Nancy, I think you're talking, but you're muted.
Hi, Dragon Mama.
What's up?
Hi. I just wanted to pop in here and just say I just really appreciate what you said. I mean, I admire you more now because of your story. I mean, it really just like hits me hard because we all have to go through some hard times to get to where we are. And your house is beautiful. That just shows that you are just a go-getter, and your love of life and helping people and everything is just really touches me. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate you and admire you for all that you went through, and it made you so strong and who you are.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that I don't really have any questions except for I mean, I have 3 kids. I could never, ever just like leave them on the streets like that. But I was just wondering, is your relationship okay now with your parents and all that? Or is it
Well,
kind of like they just kind of deserted you during that time of like,
no, they helped me. So, I understand where they're coming from. I also wouldn't have been able to leave somebody stranded like that, but I'm glad my mom left me stranded because it allowed me to have that I
yeah,
am powerful moment. But there have been some rocky times with my parents, but right now everything is like a lot smoother and peaceful. Moving away from Oregon was a good thing for me to like reclaim my space and everything like that. But I do have a very amicable relationship with both parents now, even though there have been some times that were rocky. I believe that family is very important. We should find peace with our family members and gratitude for our parents for bringing us into the earth, no matter our differences and no matter who they are or their flaws. Our job is,
right.
is to love them and and I want to be an ambassador of love and I want to try to love and forgive and accept everything the best that I can,
Yes.
even though I'm not perfect, but nobody is.
Yes. That's what I do. I forgive everybody. I mean, if they hurt me, it's just like, oh, it's just what we're going through at the time and stuff. And,
Well,
I just, you know,
well, my parents
go
forgave me
ahead.
for a lot too, because I was very nasty when I was on drugs. Nobody's nice when they're on drugs. I was very nasty to both my parents. I said a lot of very nasty, hurtful things, and I'll regret that till the day that I die.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that my daughter's 19 and she blocked me from her life. There, I guess it's just we're not getting along. We went to Florida and everything just
I'm
was
sorry.
bad. She's on she's drinks a lot. She's just tearing herself apart.
Well, I
And
can
I'm always there for her, but I miss her and everything, but she's got to figure herself out, I guess. I don't know.
I can give you this. I can give you this is that I know that when we're separated from our parents, we don't want that and we feel bad about it. And you can't, it's hard for you to be yourself and to truly feel love when you're under the influence of alcohol or drugs or anything. Like it's not really her. Because I can honestly say that the real me didn't come out until I became like truly fully sober. So sobriety is an absolutely beautiful thing. It's the biggest gift. And just send good vibes and positive energy that she finds a way to get sober. And when she does, she'll come to her senses.
That's what I was thinking. I think her mind's just she's not in her right mind. I just feel like the drugs and the alcohol and the vaping and all that stuff that she's doing has made her into this person that she just doesn't have any association with me. I guess because she sees me as like I don't know. I don't know, but I appreciate that advice. I really think that's probably what it is.
Be patient. Be patient. Be
That's
patient.
so
Send love.
okay. All right. Well, that's all. I just want to say I really admire you and I really appreciate you. And I really like listening to your story.
Thank
Just really
you.
liked it.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate it a lot.
Uh-huh. Okay. I'll see you when I see you. I love
Yeah,
your house too, by the way. Your house is absolutely gorgeous.
thank you. Come visit.
I would love to. I'd love to come to Oregon. I really would, but trying to get there from Cincinnati is just, can't figure it out. It's just 8 hours and then 2 days to get home. And it's just, oh man, I just should just move there, get a little townhouse or something
It's
and be
beautiful.
close
You
to,
should.
yeah. So find me a place to live. I can just live like a little vacation place.
You should do it. It's
Anyway,
beautiful here. All
it
right.
looks
Thank you.
beautiful. Okay. Bye-bye.
Any other question or comment? I'm open for either. Anybody shocked? No.
I've heard bits and pieces of your story the whole time, so I'm really glad that you got to kind of put it all in a timeline. That's
Yeah.
super exciting for me. I can see you've done a lot of work on your timeline and like getting it, with the pictures and stuff. That was really fun to watch. So thank you for doing that.
No,
Yeah, I think just a real quick question, like, I'm intrigued about the mushrooms, I'll be honest. Like that's really exciting, that you got to where you know, you were free because of those. That's awesome. And
yeah.
they're natural. That's awesome, even more awesome. So yeah, it just interests me, I guess, a little bit. I just doing the juice fast and the watermelon fast and multiple fruit fasts. I felt that enlightening feeling and that load lifted and just having to deal with things in a different way. I've heard things as well. And I'm just like, This might be a little tiny bit of what Tracy's talking about, just a little tiny bit. So, yeah, that's cool. Well, thank you for sharing tonight. I appreciate
You
it.
bet. And the mushrooms were a huge part, and graduating from mushrooms was huge too. I've heard other people say this too. The mushroom will tell you when it's done with you. They just stop working and you don't get anything out of it anymore. And some people stay on mushrooms anyway, even though the mushroom tells them to stop. And that's not a good thing because it can really kind of damage your brain, to go longer than you should. But I feel really fortunate that I was able to work with that beautiful medicine enough for it to help me. And then when I knew when it was time to stop, because if you have to take something your whole life, it becomes a drug, not a medicine. And so I'm glad that it's not that.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks.
Who else? Going once? Going twice? Going 3 times? All right. If no one else has anything to say, I'm gonna stop the recording. I just want to say one more time, thank you to everyone who attended live. Thank you to everyone who took the opportunity to watch this from my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. If this is shocking or weird to anyone, sorry. My life has been a roller coaster of crazy, crazy events. Literally, it's my 10-year anniversary this year of being homeless. So come a long way from rags to riches to raw was the title of my presentation. From homeless to making a lot of money to just being super raw. And here we are. So thank you again. Much love, everyone. And I look forward to recording more content. Keep it raw. All right.